The big picture and the decline of the West. Right now, the center of the American empire, the U.S. government itself, is in the early stages of shedding some of its colonies, especially in Europe. And this is what I've called them vassal states, but colonies is the same idea, such as by demanding them not to consume the most inexpensive fuels that were available to them, which came from Russia. Not just demanding, but also blowing up the Nord Stream pipeline, and which had fueled European industries and kept EU countries economically competitive with other nations. So this has destroyed Europe's economy in many ways, certain countries worse than others, but Europe has gone along with it, falling over themselves to go along with destroying their own economies. And it's been kind of breathtaking to watch. And it's just now starting to shed even its own public, meaning the U.S. is starting to shed its own public by slashing the federal programs such as Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, and services to the poor that have the highest public support. This self-cannibalization is normal for an empire in decline because its billionaires, the richest, the country's aristocracy, the individuals who collectively control the government, have been the beneficiaries of empire and can no longer keep up the lifestyles to which they are accustomed unless they extract it increasingly from their colonies and from their own public. I want to slightly differ with the wording there, although the concept I totally agree with. He says they're no longer able to keep up the lifestyle they had to which they're accustomed. The real ruling elite of this country are so rich that no downtick in stocks or downtick in how much the U.S. can extract from other countries is really going to impact their way of life. They just have too much money. Like, there is nothing Elon Musk could do to even begin to spend the amount of wealth he has, the amount of fake dollars he has, or many of these ruling elite. Even Donald Trump, there's really nothing Donald Trump could do to spend, even if we just say it's $3 billion. He thinks he has $10 billion, but even if we just say Trump has $3 billion, there's no way he could even begin to spend anywhere near that amount of money. So it's not the amount of life. It's not the style of life or keep up the life they're accustomed to. Instead, it is just immense greed. They want to keep up the amount of quote unquote growth, because capitalism is cancer. They want to keep up the amount of growth that they're accustomed to, the amount of extraction that they're accustomed to, the amount of enriching themselves that they're accustomed to. No longer can they extract even more from conquests via invasions, coups, or otherwise, basically looting the vanquished, destroying countries outside the empire, such as Afghanistan, Iraq, Syria, Libya, Venezuela, and Iran. So it becomes increasingly replaced by destroying itself. The empire is eating itself. The West, the U.S. and allied colonies, countries are shrinking as a percentage of global GDP, PPP. GDP, if you look at GDP, you go, oh, the U.S. is still on top or, maybe slightly below China. If you add a purchasing power parity, meaning we look at what the dollars in these countries actually mean, then the U.S. is far lower, is shrinking far more in GDP purchasing power parity, which is that's the real measure of economics. Like, if you just look at GDP, that doesn't really tell you things. What you have to look at is GDP plus purchasing power parity, meaning you even out for how much the currency means, how effective, how impactful it is, how powerful it is. Approximately 2,000 billionaires whose percentage of that national wealth has been increasing while that of their countries are declining, are becoming less and less dependent upon exploiting the entire world. Thus, these billionaires are becoming more and more dependent upon exploiting their own people, their domestic population of workers and consumers. It is the stage of imperial overreach. Consequently, for example, America's current president, Donald Trump, who's a billionaire, represents America's billionaires who have funded his entire political career, and he is now seeking to extract from the American people yet more money to further enrich those billionaires. The die-off attrition of America's government will thus be very profitable for America's wealthiest individuals. And he's talking about the privatizing of all these, industries, all these aspects of the federal government. All these things created, a lot of them during the New Deal. These were aspects of the government that we got simply for being a citizen of the United States. You get some things in order to allow our society to continue without fully collapse. Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, food stamps. These things are largely designed to pick up the pieces of capitalism, because capitalism by definition will move all the wealth to the top and destroy millions of lives in one way or another. And so you have this safety net, literally called a net, to catch all of the people who are being churned up and spit out by this machine. And do you honestly fucking believe that it is all of their faults? That every last person who's been churned up and spit out by this ridiculous system, they all just chose to be, they're all just lazy. They're all just not working hard. Bullshit. There are people with 3 jobs and 2 jobs who can't make their rent. Like, are they not working hard? Are they lazy when they're going from one job to another and never seeing their kids? So remarkably fucked up. And then we go, oh, well, we should gut these and take these away. We should take, literally, they're taking away food stamps and school lunches for poor children as we speak. Federal protections get taken away, but ultimately everything will become privatized so that this model of capitalism, the resultant purification of American libertarianism, the quote unquote free market, will approach even closer to 100% than it already does. The American unfettered capitalism, it's more unfettered even before Trump than most other capitalist countries. We were already one of the kind of most cutthroat capitalist countries, and now we're making it worse. So that the controlling billionaires will end up in control over everything in America, including basic services to the public. Oh, by the way, they're talking about latest thing is gutting postal service. I mean, they've been doing that for years, but Trump wants to ramp up the gutting of the postal service. Why would he do that? The postal service is one of those services in America that provides a pretty great service for sometimes ridiculously affordable rates. I mean, if you're talking a letter, you can send a letter across the country for, I don't even know what a stamp is now, 50 cents? Whatever the cost is. It's cheap. Amazing. Imagine if the Postal Service were just a regular U.S. company. How much do you think it would cost to send a letter across the goddamn country? Several dollars. He continues, anyone who isn't a billionaire will be dependent upon billionaires. This is how it's been in America ever since at least 1980. Instead of drastically cutting benefits, the plan seemingly is to make it more and more difficult for people who have earned those benefits by working in this country their whole lives. It make it more and more difficult for them to get them. He continues, that's why Musk and his Doge bros want to cut thousands of jobs from Social Security's workforce, close regional offices, and limit phone service by, quote, requiring recipients to show up in person to verify certain changes to their accounts. It's designed to just make it difficult as possible. They call it in the corporate world, they call it friction. Amazon is really proud of how frictionless their ordering process is, right? Because it's like 1 click or 2 clicks to buy shit on Amazon. That's a frictionless ordering process. Elon Musk and the rest are trying to make Social Security as frictionful as possible, as difficult as possible, as many hoops as possible. They've carefully designed these things to be confusing, to be a maze of bullshit and paperwork, and as much friction as possible, all right? Excellent article over at the Duran about how the U.S. is now cannibalizing itself.